Hi guys, it's Melissa from melscardcorner.com, and I'm here today to show you how I created these 5 very cute cards from one sheet of 12 by 12 cardstock. I got this idea for creating these cards, for the layouts of them, from a video on the Stamped Treasures YouTube channel. The woman behind that channel is named Sherry Roth. She is a Stampin' Up demonstrator in Canada, and her cards were so cute, I just needed to make some myself, so I thought I would share those here with you today. These first 2 cards down here are both little pocket cards, super cute. You can write your message right there on that little card that slips in. These are not on a card base. You could, if you wanted to write more, you could certainly put them on a card base. So there's 2 of those. Next, we have this cute little flap card. And then we have another flap card, but this one is landscape instead of portrait. And then we used up the last little bits of the pattern paper, creating this fun strip type card, and then used even a little scrap on the inside as well. Once again, I'm going to lay these out here for you, and then I will walk you through how I made these. So let's get started, shall we? Okay, we'll get started first by talking about the supplies I'm going to be using. First up is the pattern paper I have. This is from the Whimsy and Wonder Designer Series paper pack from Stampin' Up from a couple of years ago, so it is retired. But any non-directional pattern paper will work. That's what Sherry recommended in her video. And I don't know how well you can tell, but this paper does have some foil accents. It's kind of small and pretty subtle, but they are there. And then she recommended picking 2 8.5 by 11 pieces of cardstock that coordinate with your pattern paper. So I chose Mint Macaron, which is one of the holly leaf colors. This is also a retired Stampin' Up color. And then I was going to select Blushing Bride, another retired Stampin' Up color, because that's what these little berries are. But then I noticed the flip side is Polished Pink, yet again a retired Stampin' Up color. So I ended up deciding to go with the Polished Pink cardstock as well. So those are my 2 cardstock colors. You're also going to need just 1 piece of 8.5 by 11 white cardstock, and then you're going to need 1 card base. I'm using white for mine, and I'm going to make a tent fold card. So this will come down and fold like this. But you could certainly use a side folding card as well if you wanted. For this, I just happen to like top folding cards, so that's what I picked. So now let's get started with the cutting. So I'm going to set the cardstocks aside. And I do prefer a rotary trimmer, so this is an older Fiskars one I have. I do have the Tim Holtz media one, but this one just kind of fits in my camera frame a little bit better, but I do love the Tim Holtz trimmer. Okay, so let me pull out my arm. And our first cut is going to be at 5 inches. So we'll just line this up with the 5-inch mark here on my bar. And then we'll cut there. And then we're going to rotate this piece 90 degrees, and we're going to cut it in half at 6 inches. Okay, so that gives us 2 5 by 6 pieces. Then we're going to bring back the bigger piece again, and we're going to do the same thing. We are going to cut this at 5 inches, and then we're going to rotate and cut it in half at 6 inches. Ooh, almost cut it at 8. I don't have my glasses on, and the 8 looked like a 6. The curse of old eyes. Okay, now for this 2-inch by 12-inch piece that we have left over, we're going to cut this at 5 inches twice. And then we're going to rotate each of these and cut them in half on the 2-inch side. So we'll end up with 2 1x5 pieces from that and 2 1x5s from this other piece. And we do need 3 strips of that. And then these, save these, we're going to use these as well. So that's all of the cutting of the pattern paper. Now we're going to bring in our cardstock. Here, let me get these out of the way so I don't throw them around. Okay, so now we are going to cut our cardstock. So we are going to cut this at 5.5 inches along the 11-inch side. So we're just cutting it in half. Then we are going to rotate that and cut it at 4 1/4. And that's going to give us 2 card fronts at 5.5 by 4 1/4. Then on the second piece, we are going to cut this down to 5 1/8. There we go. Could barely see that little mark. And then we're going to cut 2 pieces at 3 7/8. Oh, didn't quite get that cut all the way through. There we go. And then a second one at 3 7/8. And then we're going to do the same thing with the second piece. So we're going to cut this at 5.5. Rotate and cut at 4 1/4. And then cut this down to 5 1/8. And then cut 2 pieces at 3 7/8. Okay. Now, from the white piece, now I'm using white. You could use any neutral, like if you're using a pattern paper that has a vanilla or cream background, you could certainly use that. Or if you wanted to use craft, you could use that, but I'm just using white. And so on this, we're going to cut 2 pieces that are 3.5 by 4.5. Wait, oh, no, wait. I need to do this way. Right? Yes. Sorry, I was second guessing myself there. And then 3.5. I apologize for the noise outside. It's a nice day, so I have my windows open. So there are my 2 3.5 by 4.5. And then these pieces we will use for stamping our sentiments and that sort of thing. So that takes care of all the cutting. So let me get this out of the way. And now I do need to do a little bit of scoring. So I'm going to bring in my scoring board and then bring back my pattern paper pieces here. And on all 4 of the pieces that are 5 by 6, along the 6-inch side, we're going to be scoring these at 2 1/4 inches. So here's 2 1/4. And now 2 of them, I want this side of the paper to be up, and on the other one, I want the opposite side. So So I'm going to score them on the opposite side. Okay, and that takes care of my scoring. Okay, and now I think we are ready to assemble some cards. So for the first card, I'm going to pull out one of these pieces, fold this over on the score line and give that a burnish. And so now you see, this is a great way to feature both sides of a double-sided paper. You don't have to choose one side or the other, which I really like. And then we're going to mount this on one of the 5 1/8 by 3 1/8 panels. And I'm just going to bring in some liquid glue to do that. You could certainly use a tape runner or any type of adhesive you prefer. And my glue seems to be clogged. There we go. You don't need a lot of glue, so I just put a very thin amount, but covering the entire card. And then we're just going to line this up. And this leaves a very thin border, which is fine with me because that's what I actually prefer as well. There we go. And then we're going to take this and mount it on one of the card panel sizes in the opposite color. And this one does leave a little bit larger of a border, which looks really good and gives you that extra little bit. Now, if you wanted, at this point, you could mount this to an actual card base if you want to have a lot of space inside to write things, or you can leave it just like this and have that be your card. And then we're going to add, which is what I'm going to do, and we're going to add a spot in here where we'll have a little bit of a writing space, because I don't know about you, but I send a lot of holiday cards out and I don't have time to write a book. So it's generally just a quick, happy holidays, Melissa, type thing. So there's the first one. Now I'm going to get these others assembled. Now, for these next two cards, we're going to be doing something a little bit different. And I may end up doing it to one of these, but I want to show you real quick here what I'm going to do. So we're going to, just as before, fold this up, burnish on our score line. But on this one, we're going to turn this into a little pocket card. And so what I'm going to do is just put a very thin line of adhesive along these two edges. On the short side, I should say, on the short flap. And then fold that up to make this into a pocket. And this is where these two white panels we cut out are going to come into play. They will then slide into this pocket. And I'm not going to push it too far right now because that glue is still wet, but these are going to be the pockets to go inside our card. Okay, now I'll just finish getting these glued down. Okay, and now for this final little bit, we're going to take these three pieces And one of them we're going to flip over, so we'll have a design on either side. And one of the things Sherry did on her card that I thought was really cute was she distressed the edges on these panels. And let's see, I have a little distressor tool, but I'm not seeing it, so I'm just gonna grab a pair of scissors, which is what she used in hers as well, and then just run them along the edges of this paper to distress these edges. It just gives a simpler card a bit more interest and texture. So, word of warning, if you use scissors like I just did, be very careful, because as you can see, I inadvertently nicked myself. So yeah, be careful. Okay, I am back. I took a little wee bit of a break to go and put a Band-Aid, or a plaster as you would say in the UK, on my cut to make sure I don't bleed on any of my cards. I mean, it's not really bleeding much, but I just didn't want to take any chances. So now let's put this last card together. I'm going to give this a burnish because I did not burnish this earlier when I folded it. And I used basic white thick cardstock for this, but you could use anything you want. And so now we're going to adhere these pieces onto the card. I've got some fuzz there. Let's get rid of that. And I'm going to put the middle one down first. That way it will be easier to put the others on. And I'm just going to use the lines on my grid mat here to get this lined up. Okay, and now I'm just going to put a little bit of glue on here. I'm just kind of eyeballing it up and down, and then just, this is the center point of my card, and so I'm just lining that right up. And if you wanted, you could certainly pop these up. I'm just putting them down flat because I generally try and avoid putting too much dimension on my holiday cards, just so that I don't end up having to pay extra postage. And then for the next one, I'm going to line this up, I don't know, maybe about an 1/8 of an inch, a generous 1/8 of an inch away. And then put that down. And then we're going to do the same for the other piece. There we go. And then for this piece that we held on to, now I am not going to fray the edges on this one. I've got fray fuzz everywhere. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring this and put this on the inside of the card, like this. I'm trying to decide which pattern I want to use. I think I'm going to use the pink. And actually, this is a wee bit wider, I think, than I want to use. So I'm going to bring my trimmer back in, and I'm going to cut this in half and make it a 1/2 inch. Okay. And now we'll put some glue on this. And I'm going to bring it up about an 1/8 of an inch from the bottom. Oops, sorry, I'm off camera. I'm up about maybe an 1/8 of an inch from the bottom. And then we'll just bring in our paper snip and trim away that little bit of excess. So as of now, that's my only scrap piece I'm going to have. Okay. And what I'm going to do is create just kind of a little pull tab for these cards. And so let's see. I'm going to make this maybe 1 3/4 inches. I'm going to do one pattern and one the other. There we go. So now that has been reduced to this. And then I'm just going to fold these in half. You could score them if you want, but I'm just folding them. And give those a little burnish. And so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a little bit of glue on the bottom half. If you can see that, probably should have started with the pink one, but I'm just putting it on the bottom half. And I'm going to come in about 1/4 inch or so. And adhere that. And then we're just going to open this up and then put glue on all of the other tab. I should have put that a little bit lower, but that's okay. It will make it very obvious to the recipient that that is a pull tab. And then they can use that to just pull it out. Not that it wouldn't be obvious already that it's a pocket card, but okay, so now let's do some sentiments. And for that, we're going to use these scraps of paper I have. For my ink colors, I've pulled out the 2 coordinating inks. We have mint macaron and polished pink. Pulled out a couple of different die sets. I'm going to use this, and these are both current. Everything else so far, other than the white, is retired product, but these are current. These are the deckled circle dies. I love these. This biggest one is actually, I think, 5.5 inches. Yes, 5.5 inches, that largest circle. And it goes all the way down to a 1-inch circle. So lots of, and they go in, I believe, like 1/4 inch increments. Then the other one, these are the nested essential dies. Love these. Each one has a slightly different detail. On this, it's got like a little slash mark. This one is like a little dotted detail, and this is a double stitch on these little banners. So yeah, so those are the dies I'm going to use. I've got 3 stamp sets I brought in. I'm not sure yet which one I'm going to use. And these are all current as well. This is Christmas Classics, and I'm thinking I might use the Season's Greetings. And I might use either Deck the Halls or Peace on Earth, one or the other. We'll see. Then we have Joy to You, and I'm thinking this Wishing You a Very Merry Christmas is probably the one that's going to work best, but I might use one of these others as well. We'll just see what fits on the dies I'm using. And then we have More Wishes, which this is a great layering set. You can stamp the larger bold one in the background using the lighter color, and then stamp one of these smaller scripty ones over it in the darker color. So yeah, I'm going to get these stamped out, and I will meet you back here. And I'm going to die cut them as well. So I won't subject you to having to watch all of that, but let's get started. Okay, I'm back. I have all of my sentiments stamped and die cut. Now these two on the pocket cards, I just went on and adhered them down because there's nothing special about it. I matted the sentiment piece onto a slightly, on the next size up, deckled rectangle, and then just adhered it flat to my little pocket, and that completes that card. Oh, and one thing I did do, I forgot to mention, is just to make these little pocket pieces easier to slide in and out. Hang on, I gotta pull it back in here. I just used my bone folder and ran it under there and kind of loosened up the fibers of the designer series paper. And I don't know if you can see, but it's not laying super flat down next to it now. And that just makes it so much easier to get that little pocket in and out. And so I did that on both of these two cards. So these two, all I need to do is add some embellishments and they're done. Now for these three, I did want to offer a few tips. We'll start with this one. Now on this one, if you remember, we have the 3 strips of pattern paper and we textured the edges a little bit. Now this die cut, which is the second smallest, so it's just the one down from the largest, fits perfectly across an A2 card. But since I had these layers under there, these would have dropped and they wouldn't have been supported as well. So what I did was I took a little bit of the scrap and I cut a piece that was 1 inch by 3/8 of an inch and just glued those to either end. And so now this is all the same height. So that's just a little tip for you if you don't want to have a big, like a bump here and this be lower. You can just even things out by adding a little bit of whatever. So if it had been a cardstock layer here, I would have added a piece of cardstock. You just want to add something that is the same height of what you're wanting to go over. And so now we will just pop this right on. Oh, not upside down though, Melissa. Whew, I'm glad I caught that. And I am coming up 1.5 inches from the bottom of my card, and I'm just using my grid mat to make sure I have it straight. And there we go. And again, so now that card is done. I just need to come back in and add some embellishments to it. I really like that card. This would be a very easy card design to use to get a lot of cards from a single piece of designer series paper, since these are 1 inch strips and you could get 2 out of a 1 by 12 piece. You could get 24 cards like this from one piece of designer series paper. That's pretty good. Okay, so now on this one, this is going to be a vertical card, and so we're going to adhere this onto the card. And I think I want to have this centered, actually, not on the die cut centered like this, because then it's off centered on the card. I want to actually adhere it centered, I think, maybe on the card, although I don't really like the look of that. I think I will go back to this. Even though it's not centered on the card, I just think it looks better. So we're going to go for that. So in this case, we're only going to put adhesive on the half of the die cut that's going to be on the piece of pattern paper. I may have gone in a little bit too far there, so let me just wipe that off. We don't want adhesive on this side because then it's just going to stick to the bottom of the card. And for this, let's see. I love this Altenew craft mat because it's got the A2 size outlines on it. And so it makes it quick and easy to find the center of the card. I want this slightly above center, I think. And so then we're just going to line that up right like that. And there we go. I do like that. Yep. And now for this one, I've already adhered these two layers together. Nothing special there. And now I want this piece of vellum behind it, but obviously we don't want our adhesive to show. So what I'm going to do is adhere this down first, but I need to keep in mind that I'm going to have vellum overhanging, and I don't want adhesive down here because I don't want to stick the card closed, right? So what I think I'm going to do, well, not think, it is what I'm going to do, is I'm just going to lay this on here and see. So I need to keep the glue up on this upper 2/3 basically of this piece. And that's probably more like the top half. I don't want to risk it going too low. Okay, and now we're going to adhere this. Make sure I've got my vellum the right way. I do. And so I like to line up, oh, I'm on camera, yeah. I like to line up these points together first to make sure things are going to be straight that way. And then just eyeball it to make sure things are centered, and they are. And so now what I can do is I can see, I don't know how well you can see, but I can see where that adhesive, oh yeah, there you go. You can see it there. I can see where that adhesive is. And so now I'm just going to, once again, apply adhesive to that, behind that soft succulent, not soft succulent, macaron layer. It does look a lot like soft succulent, so. And then what I'm going to do is just come in and put this down on my card. And I'm using these little lines on the pattern paper as a guide to make sure I've got it centered, kind of left to right. And so now when I open it up, you're not going to see any of that adhesive. And so that is that card. Now, of course, we need somewhere to write. And so this is not going to be very conducive for writing. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to die cut some more pieces that match up to these shapes. Now on all of these three, I don't need anything. They're good to go. These two, I do need something on the inside to allow me to write something. So I need to cut 2 more of these. So I will be right back. Okay, I'm back and I have my shapes cut. Let's line them up under the right card. So in this case, I cut the shape the same size as this pink layer, which in looking at it now, I think I may have gotten that a little bit crooked. I did. So that's that. So now what I'm going to do is line it up behind the other one. And then just to make my life a little bit easier, I'm going to bring in just some repositionable adhesive and put just a tiny bit there because I do not want this to shift as I'm putting this all together. And I don't want that white piece to show. So let's see, I think I've got just a tad bit still at the bottom here showing. So we'll reposition it, double check. Yep, that's good. And so now what I can do is bring in my liquid glue. And then just close the card onto that. Make sure that adheres down really well. And then just lift these apart. I'll come in with a adhesive remover and get rid of that repositionable adhesive. And there we go. And now I've got a place where I can write my little Merry Christmas. So that's that card done. Sorry, I was kind of low on the screen, but as you can see now, I've got that little spot on the inside where I can write my Merry Christmas. You could also put a panel here if you wanted a little more space. I'm just going to use this as an example, but I would put like a rectangle in there, not a oblong hexagon. But that's just to give you an idea that you could put something there. You could also, if you wanted, put another one of these here and then glue it down. And that way you're not going to have this seam showing or any of the back side of this die cut showing. So that would be another option as well. And then basically we're going to do the same thing for this one. This white piece that I die cut is the same size as the mint macaron. So I'm going to open this up. Oh, I was trying to remove the cap. It's already off. And then I'm just going to line this up. And I put that repositionable adhesive on the top side of the die cut because I'm going to be adhering, obviously, the wrong side down. So I just want to make sure that I can position that. Now let's double check and see. Yep, that's all nicely hidden. And now I'll come in. So now I've got the wrong side up. And I'll put my adhesive, my liquid glue, on that side. And then once again, just close the card onto that. Then open it up and take off my temporary adhesive. And now I've got a nice little shape inside the card where I can write my personal greeting and it doesn't show from the front. So now let me grab a few embellishments and I'll get these embellished and we'll be right back to see the finished cards. Okay, I am back. My cards are all finished. I've added very minimal embellishments because since this is foiled paper, I didn't feel like it needed a whole lot. So what I've done is I've added a few of the iridescent rhinestone basic jewels. These are a current item and I absolutely love these. I feel like they show up a little bit better than the regular clear rhinestones, and I like the fun iridescent shimmer it adds to my projects. So for these two, I just added them right here along one edge of the little pocket that we created. And so I did the same on both of those. Very pretty. On this one, I just scattered some around the sentiment. I have the medium size one here and then two of the smallest size up here on the other side. I did the exact same thing on this flap card. I've got the medium size one here and then two of the smallest size over here, just kind of highlighting my sentiment. And I did kind of the same thing on this vertical card. I have one medium one down at the bottom, two small ones up at the top. I do like adding my embellishments in odd numbers. So there we go. That is 5 cards from one sheet of 12 by 12 paper. I love how these turned out. And if you decide to give this a try, please tag me and leave a comment below, and I would love to see what you've created. And again, massive thanks to Sherry Roth. She's a Canadian Stampin' Up demonstrator. I saw this template on her website, I saw it on her YouTube channel, but she does have it on her website as well, along with the cutting measurements and everything that you need. But if you only watch her video, which I'll link below, you can get all the measurements there as well. You just have to kind of watch the video to get them. So, but I highly recommend watching her video. She does a really great job demonstrating these cards. So I will leave you all with that. I hope everyone I'm going to post this on Saturday or maybe Sunday, sometime this weekend, leading up to Halloween. And so I really hope everyone has a wonderful weekend. And if you are taking your little ones out for Halloween, I know there's a lot of trunk and treat type things going on in my community this weekend. Please be safe. Make sure your kids are watching for moving cars and that sort of thing. I know that goes without saying, but just wanted to throw that out there. And I hope everyone has a wonderful, wonderful day. And I will talk to you soon. Bye-bye.